Kidow balanced on the jagged edge of a rusted dumpster in downtown Detroit. The metal groaned under his weight, vibrating with the pulse of the city traffic below. His focus narrowed to a single target, a discarded slice of pepperoni pizza resting on the cracked sidewalk. He tensed his hind legs, claws digging into the oxidized steel, and launched himself into the air. A sudden gust of wind caught his tail mid-flight, throwing his trajectory off balance. He plummeted, missing the pavement entirely and burying his face deep into a pile of damp autumn leaves. The impact knocked the breath out of him. He pushed himself up, but a bright red maple leaf clung to his nose, obscuring his view. A group of tourists stopped on the sidewalk, their voices rising in sudden, sharp laughter as they pointed at the disheveled heap of orange fur. Kidow blinked, his whiskers twitching, and shook his head with violent force. The leaf tore free, sailing through the air and landing squarely on the windshield of a passing taxi. He scrambled to his feet, ignoring the crowd, and sprinted away from the sidewalk, his hunger sharpened by the sting of the public failure. The streets of downtown grew louder as the lunch hour hit. Kidow kept his belly low to the concrete, weaving between heavy boot steps and discarded coffee cups. He tracked the scent of grease and salt until he reached the base of a humming food truck. Heat radiated from the service bay, warming the pavement where he stood. He crept under the serving counter, pressing himself into the narrow shadows beneath the metal frame. Above him, the rhythmic clatter of pans and the hiss of a grill filled the air. He waited, muscles coiled, watching the chef move with frantic speed. The chef pivoted, his elbows striking a metal spatula, which clattered loudly against the pavement near the truck's wheels. The chef cursed and stepped away from the counter to retrieve the tool. Kidow moved in a blur. He lunged at the prep table, teeth sinking into a stray sausage left near the edge. He did not hesitate. He pulled the prize down, turned, and bolted into the narrow gap between two brick buildings. The scent of victory was rich and immediate. He reached the cover of an alleyway, dropped his prize, and took a second to breathe before the next surge of hunger drove him further into the city maze. The warehouse interior was vast and smelled of stale dust and concrete. Kidow slipped through a shattered window, carrying the sausage firmly in his jaws. He found a dark corner, ready to settle, when a high-pitched whine cut through the silence. A circular device sat in the center of the floor, its lights flashing a rhythmic, blinking blue. It jerked forward, spinning its brushes with a frantic, clicking sound. Kidow dropped his food and arched his back, but the machine did not stop. It pivoted, turning its path directly toward him. He darted left, but the vacuum matched his speed, closing the gap in a tight mechanical arc. The buzzing grew louder, vibrating against the concrete floor. He scrambled for traction, claws skittering as the device bumped against his hind leg. Panic flared. He saw a stack of weathered tires piled high near a support beam. With a final, desperate burst of speed, he launched himself upward, landing firmly on the rubber rim. Below, the vacuum hit the base of the stack with a dull thud. It lingered, bumping rhythmically against the rubber, unable to reach its target. Kidow crouched on the summit, heart hammering against his ribs, watching the mindless machine continue its endless, repetitive patrol. By midday, the city noise shifted from traffic to the rhythmic lapping of the Detroit River. Kidow padded along the water's edge, his hunger still sharp. He spotted a plastic bucket resting near a wooden pier, the scent of fresh minnows drifting upward. He crept forward, every muscle tuned to the stillness of the air. He was inches away when his front paw landed squarely on the curved edge of a discarded soda can. The metal groaned, then skidded across the pavement with a shrill, piercing clatter. The fisherman spun around, shouting as he lunged toward the pier. Kidow did not wait to investigate the threat. He bolted, claws digging into the concrete to find purchase. He sprinted toward a rusted chain-link fence, the gap at the bottom appearing far too narrow. He threw his weight against the wire, squeezing through with a sharp pull against his side, and kept moving without breaking his stride. A utility pole stood 20 feet ahead. He hit the wood, claws catching the rough surface, and hauled himself upward in a frantic blur of movement. He scrambled past the first crossbar, not stopping until he reached the high wires. Below, the fisherman stood panting, staring up at the pole. Kidow clung to the wood, sides heaving, watching the city bustle continue as if nothing had happened. The sun dipped low, pulling long, jagged shadows across the downtown skyline. From his perch on the utility pole, the city noise softened into a low hum. Kidow shifted his weight, his muscles aching from the day of constant movement. He scanned the streets below, his eyes catching a flicker of light, hitting a porch across the alley. There, resting against the wooden base of a house, was a familiar blue bowl. The tension in his shoulders finally broke. He began the descent, claws hooking deep into the wood, moving slowly to conserve what little energy remained. He hit the pavement with a soft thud and darted across the empty alley, eyes locked on the door. He reached the porch steps, pushed his head firmly against the screen, and waited. The latch clicked, and the door swung inward. He did not hesitate, trotting inside to the center of the living room. He found the rug, circled it 3 times until the fibers felt right, and collapsed. The house was still. The long day of urban uncertainty vanished as he tucked his nose beneath his tail. He let out a long, slow breath, his eyes closing as the warmth of the room pulled him into a deep, quiet sleep.